please. Yes.
Good evening, Your Holiness. My name is Nicola, and my question is, in the introduction we heard that certain prophecies prophesied by Jesus Christ were fulfilled in the second Messiah. Can you tell me what those prophecies were, please?
Yes, certain prophecies of Jesus Christ were fulfilled in relation to his second advent. Is that right? Who introduced this subject?
Bilal.
Bilal? Why didn't you illustrate yourself?
I did very briefly. I only had a short time to do so.
What prophecies did you have in mind, for instance?
I mentioned the eclipse of the sun and the moon.
What?
I mentioned the eclipse, the...
That's right. I understand. What else?
And the Holy Prophet's prophecy, the same thing, the eclipses.
You know, this is a very debatable issue as to how the prophecies should be read. That's why I inquired from him what prophecies he had in mind. I had some different prophecies in mind, but because the prophecies are always debated concerning their message and interpretation, so it's a difficult subject to enter, and on the basis of just this, it's not generally possible to make a clear-cut decision. But I had in mind a different prophecy which is mentioned in the Holy Quran very clearly, along with the prophecy he mentioned as well. That is to say that according to the Holy Quran, Jesus Christ prophesied that after him there will be a prophet whose name would be Ahmad. And in the same surah or elsewhere, it is also mentioned that Moses also, in the same surah, it is mentioned that Moses also had made a prophecy that Muhammad will appear in the, to be the beginner of a new faith, new religion, new era. So they are done together. Prophecy of Muhammad is related to Moses. Prophecy of Ahmad is related to Jesus Christ. Now we Ahmadis interpret this that as Muhammad's prophecy obviously relates to Prophet Muhammad, his first advent. And the Ahmad's prophecy should relate to the person who would appear in the latter days like Messiah appeared in the Ummah of Moses. So what he was to Moses, so Ahmad would be to Muhammad. This is our understanding of this prophecy. And I believe it's quite logical and understandable. But it's not something which can be enforced upon others as a strong logic. But if anybody reads this with an unprejudiced, unbiased attitude, he can see the wisdom and the balance of this. The Holy Quran says Moses prophesied Muhammad and Jesus prophesied Ahmad. Now relate this to the prophecy of the Holy Prophet himself that in his Ummah also there will be a Messiah. Like Moses prophesied the coming of Messiah and other prophets after him did. So Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the founder of Islam, also prophesied the coming of a Messiah. Now this could be the same. Now the issue is, what is the proof of that there was Muhammad name mentioned in the Bible? The proof lies in the fact that in the older translations of Bible, the prophecy of someone coming to bring about a new faith, new religion, new era is contained, and the word is translated as Muhammadin. Who would come? He will be Muhammadin. Now when the Muslims refer to this with relation to the Quranic reference, the Christians began to change, and also the Jewish people, they must have done it together, to change the translation from Muhammadin to the praiseworthy people. Now the argument they presented in favor of this change was that Muhammadin is a plural. And Muhammad name is a singular. So a plural name can be translated into into the meanings, translated in a manner that the meanings are translated. Not, it should not be kept verbatim as such and transferred from one language to the other. This was their argument. But they do not tell you that in Hebrew, all names which are mentioned or uttered with respect are mentioned in plural. So Muhammadim is definitely a personal name of someone, but why it was pluralized was out of respect, because it is the custom of the language. Like in every language, in references, other ordinary references, we turn a singular into a plural. Instead of saying thou, you say ap, or in English you. In Urdu, instead of saying you, tu is you, is thou, we say ap, which is a plural. So plurality in many contexts has a sense of respect. And in some languages, even the proper nouns are pluralized just out of respect. So that was no argument. They knew the laws of the language, yet they permitted this word to remain exactly the same instead of translating it. So the earlier scholars couldn't have missed the point. They were expecting somebody of this name. But when he did appear, then they began to change it. So it became controversial afterwards. Now, in case of Ahmad, also, we have the word Ahmad found in the New Testament, discovered from a monastery in Syria. The original words, which are not accepted by all scholars, were Ahmad. Now the word Ahmad can be translated as well as it can be kept as a proper noun. And it is closest to Ahmad. So again a debate begins. But it should be strange to everybody that the Holy Quran mentions two names, and names very close, very similar to those, are actually found in the Old Testament and New Testament. So there has to be something in it. So that is one prophecy which I wanted to point out, and the one he already has mentioned perhaps briefly, but if it is to be elaborated, I will only say this much, that the coming of Christ, the second advent I mean, was related to some heavenly events. When the moon will be darkened and the sun will cease to emit light. The same expression is used in the Holy Quran. That Shams فَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرُ وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. That when the sight will be dazzled. Dazzled by what? By seeing the moon darkened and the sun joining moon in this. What is the meaning of joining moon in this? Why did it say sun will also be darkened? This is explained by a hadith of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said that the Mahdi, our Mahdi, when he appears, two heavenly signs will be shown in his favor, which have never been shown before in favor of any other claimant. And the words of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are, Inna le Mahdina ayatayni lam tukuna mundu khalqi samawati wal ard. Awwaluha an yankasifa al-qamaru fi awwali laylatin min Ramadana wa tankasifu ash-shamsu fi an-nisfi minhu wa lam tukuna mundu khalqi samawati wal ard. He said, for our Mahdi. You know, the title of Mahdi is perhaps quite familiar nowadays. Imam Mahdi you have heard, and at least you must have heard of the bloody Mahdi who appeared in Sudan. So that means Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted many a Mahdi to appear. How will you recognize the Mahdi who is prophesied by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah as belonging to him? This was the question raised by him. He said, for our Mahdi, there will be two signs which cannot be tampered with at all by human beings. They're heavenly signs, completely out of human control, out of human reach. Awwaloha, the first of them is that the moon will be eclipsed. And on the first night. And the second is that the sun will be eclipsed in the middle of the days. These things, both these signs will appear in one single month. And the name of that month will be Ramadan. And this as a sign has never appeared before. Now, so many conditions are put together. That is why the word Jum'ah, they'll be brought together, is spoken of, is used instead of saying sun will also darken. They will not darken separately at different times. They'll be brought together as a sign, packed in a small, short space of 1 month. And the name of that month is also mentioned as Ramadan. So the question is, did this sign appear in favor of Masih Maud, whom we call the promised Messiah, or not? No, it's a matter of history. You can go to any observatory or write to them to send you the records of the period which I'm going to tell. Exactly the same thing happened, which had been predicted from that time 1300 years before. Hazrat Masih Maud Islam, the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, officially declared the Jamaat on 23rd of March, only 2 days ago in this year, but 23rd of March of 1889. And he claimed to be the Mahdi, the Messiah, all that was predicted about the future reformer. And there was no sign of any sun or moon's eclipse, and for them to be eclipsed together in 1 month, this was completely out of reach for any man. The observatories of that period also never mentioned such a thing. Because I have discussed this matter with knowledgeable people, highly knowledgeable people, they say such a prediction is even today is not possible, because the moon's phases are so variable that it's not possible for us to definitely determine that these things will happen in 1 month and also will be seen from one single horizon. It's another problem which is related to this. You know, sun can be eclipsed and moon can be eclipsed together in 1 month, but moon can be seen eclipsed from one area and the sun from the other. Both cannot be seen together from one single horizon. This is a single vantage point appearing in the same horizon. So these were all the problems involved. And every non-Ahmadi Muslim, not every, but many of course, started demanding from him, all right, if you are true Mahdi or true Messiah, show us the sign. How can you have the moon eclipsed and the sun eclipsed exactly according to the description of the prophecy? In 1894, this appeared. Exactly as it had been predicted. On the 13th of Ramadan that year, the moon was eclipsed. And on the 28th of that Ramadan, the sun was eclipsed as well. Now the only question which remains to be discussed is, how can these two dates be called the first and the middle? We believe, and which is scientific, and there is no other possibility left to us but to believe that by the first, he meant the first of the eclipse nights. By the middle day, he meant the middle of the eclipse days of the sun. And they are fixed by God and they cannot be changed. The moon always gets eclipsed either on the 13th or 14th or 15th. These are the three fixed days because they relate to the relationship between the movement of moon, earth and the sun. Similarly, sun can never be eclipsed beyond the three dates of 27th, 28th, 29th. And 28th is the middle. 13th is the first of the moon's eclipse. So the founder of the Ahmadiyya community not only pointed out to this, but also mentioned that your own scholars earlier had been interpreting it like this. They said the moon will be eclipsed on the 13th. Where did they read that it would be eclipsed on the 13th? While it was said on the 1st. So it had to be the first of the moon, of the nights of eclipse of moon, and the middle day of the days of the eclipse of the sun. By way of further argument, he pointed out that the moon of the first night is highly questionable in the sense whether it appeared or did not. Very thin slice it is, and even the slightest shadows cast by some dust hanging in the horizon or clouds, etc., makes it disappear altogether. And the life is so short, the lifespan of the first moon, that it lasts, say, from 10 to 15 or half an hour, no more. So if a cloud covers it or dust particles obscure it, it will not be seen anyway. Now, on top of that, if it is eclipsed, how can you see it? Eclipse can only be noticed if the remaining part of the moon is visible and only a small part becomes invisible. So, the eclipse the moon of the crescent, eclipse the crescent and it will disappear. And the time-old debate will continue once again. The mullahs, the religious clergy would say it did not eclipse, it did not appear. What do you mean by eclipse? It never appeared. And poor Imam Mahdi, he would say, no, it appeared, but we couldn't see it because it was eclipsed. So it is stupid to interpret things in a manner which are contrary to the nature created by God and contrary to the human experience. Impossible. It can't happen like that. But the third and the clinching argument is this, that Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, the founder of Islam, is known and universally accepted by all Muslims to have the best command of Arabic after the Holy Quran. His Arabic, the quality of his Arabic is beyond a shadow of doubt most excellent. Every Arab knows that the moon of the first three nights is referred to as crescent, hilal, never as qamar. When the moon, people speak of the moon of the first three nights, they always refer to it as al-hilal. And in English, it is referred to as crescent. The prophetic words used by the Holy Prophet of Islam were al-qamaru, yankasif al-qamaru, not al-hilalu. So did he not know Arabic? Did he not know that Arabs do not refer to the moon of the first three nights as hilal? And instead of that, if he knew from God that this would be the period when the moon would be eclipsed, he should simply have told us that it would be a crescent which will be eclipsed. He didn't. Qamar normally applies to the fuller moons of later periods. So looking at it from all angles, it leaves us no room to escape from the powerful message delivered by this prophecy, and its roots are in Jesus Christ. He prophesied first. No other prophet ever before spoke of somebody appearing in his similarity or his reappearance and pointing out that this sign will appear on the heaven. So it had to be fulfilled by his likeness, the one who would appear in his name and in his character. And this is exactly what happened.